প্ৰিপেয়াৰেশ্যনলৈ আপোনালোকক স্বাগতম। বহুত দিনৰ মূৰত আজি আকৌ আপোনালোকক লগ পাবলৈ গৈ আছো। আশা কৰোঁ এডিআৰই এক্সাম আপোনালোক চবৰে ভাল গ'ল আৰু যিখিনি আমি স্কিল টেষ্টৰ কাৰণে প্ৰিপেয়াৰেশ্যন কৰা হৈছিল সেইখিনি আপোনালোকৰ কামত আহিল। এটলিষ্ট আই এম এক্সপেক্টিং লাইক ডেট এণ্ড আশা কৰোঁ আপোনালোকে ভবাৰ দৰে আপোনালোক উত্তীৰ্ণও হ'ল আৰু যিসকলৰ হয়তো থাকি গৈছে তেওঁলোকলৈ মই এটাই কথা ক'ব বিচাৰোঁ যে প্ৰিপেয়াৰেশ্যন কৰি ৰাখক। অপৰচুনিটিজ আহি থাকে, চ' আমি নেক্সট অপৰচুনিটিৰ কাৰণে নিজক প্ৰিপেয়াৰ কৰাটোৱেই আমাৰ মুখ্য কৰ্তব্য। চ' উই শুড নট ষ্টপ or put a full stop to our preparation. In fact, we have to try harder and harder. In fact, we have to try ourselves better and better version. Now, this session will be continued as an essay session. Yet, ami kisuman important essay topic that will be important for your civil services examinations point of view, like the upcoming APSC examination or UPSC examination point of view. We are going to study or we are going to read those essays. So we try to share our points of view on that. Comment section will be open for each of you. You may share your philosophical thoughts on that. And this paper is very important because this is the paper which actually challenges our mind that how we present ourselves about our understandings on those intellectual topics. So এইখিনি টপিক মই বহুতো ডিফাৰেণ্ট চ'ৰ্চৰ পৰা কালেক্ট কৰিম। চ' লগে ভাগে আমি এই টপিকখিনি ডিছকাছ কৰি যাম। আহক তেন্তে পলম নকৰি আজিৰ এপিছডটো ষ্টাৰ্ট কৰোঁ। আৰু আজিৰ এছেইখন হৈছে হিষ্ট্ৰী ৰিপিটছ ইটছেল্ফ, ফাৰ্ষ্ট এজ এ ট্ৰেজেডি এণ্ড ছেকেণ্ড এজ এ ফাৰ্চ। চ' এই টপিকটোৰ পৰা আমি কি বুজিছো, এই পাৰ্টিকুলাৰ টাইটেলৰ পৰা আমি কি বুজিছো? চ' আমাৰ যিটো হিষ্ট্ৰী আছিল সেই হিষ্ট্ৰীটো এসময়ত ৰিপিট হয়, ফাৰ্ষ্ট এজ এ ট্ৰেজেডি এণ্ড ছেকেণ্ড এজ এ ফাৰ্চ। According to Winston S. Churchill, the farther backward you can look, the farther forward you are likely to see. So Winston এছ চাৰ্চিলৰ মতে, এই নামটো বহুত পপুলাৰ, আই হোপ আপোনালোকে শুনিছে। তেওঁৰ মতে কি কৈছে, দ্য ফাৰ্দাৰ বেকৱাৰ্ড ইউ কেন লুক, যিমান আপোনালোকে পাছলৈ চাব, ভালকৈ লক্ষ্য কৰিব, ভালকৈ সেইখিনিক অধ্যয়ন কৰিব পাছৰ সেই ডাটাখিনি, দ্য ফাৰ্দাৰ ফৰৱাৰ্ড ইউ আৰ লাইকলি টু সি, সিমানেই আপুনি আপোনাৰ দৃষ্টিকোণ কি হ'ব, আপোনাৰ দৃষ্টিকোণটো ইমানেই নিপুণ হ'ব যে আপুনি আগত কি প্ৰবেবিলিটি আছে হোৱাৰ সেইখিনিও আপোনালোকে বোধ কৰিব পাৰিব। So the farther backward you can look, the farther forward are likely to see. So essay এখন ষ্টাৰ্ট কৰাৰ এইটো এটা প্ৰথম উপায় নহয়, আচলতে ক'ব লাগিব এইটো এটা প্ৰথম kind of style that we have to open our essay like this, the quotes from famous philosopher. Like this, for this essay, we are starting with a different quote, like the farther backward you can see, the farther forward you are likely to see. ঠিক আছে, from Winston S. Churchill. Now, আহক আমাৰ এই হিষ্টৰী মানে আমাৰ টপিকটোৰ মেইন যিজনে কোট কৰিছিল সেইজনৰ বিষয়ে কওঁ। চ' হিষ্ট্ৰী ৰিপিট ইটছেল্ফ, ফাৰ্ষ্ট এজ এ ট্ৰেজেডি, ছেকেণ্ড এজ এ ফাৰ্চ, সেয়া দেউতাজন হৈছে কাৰ্ল মাৰ্কছ। নকলেও হ'ব কাৰ্ল মাৰ্কছ কোন। আই হোপ আপোনালোকে চবেই এখেতৰ নামটো ইকনমিক্সতো পাইছে, হিষ্ট্ৰীটো পাইছে, ৰাইট, এণ্ড ছ'চাইটিটো পাইছে। So one of the most quoted remarks of Karl Marx, the German philosopher and political theorist, popularly known as father of communism, is history repeat itself and first as a tragedy and then as or second as a farce. Now, এই যে কাৰ্ল মাৰ্কছ জন হয়, তেখেতক আমি সকলোৱে, এইটোতো ঠিকেই তেওঁ জাৰ্মান ফিলচফাৰ, কিন্তু তেওঁক আমি জানো এজন কি বুলি, কমিউনিজিমৰ ফাদাৰ বুলি, ৰাইট। Now, এটা এছেইখনৰ মেইন কণ্টেক্সলৈ আহিম। ইন দ্য ইণ্ডিয়ান কণ্টেক্স, Mark's statement, history repeats itself, first as a tragedy, second as a farce, holds immense relevance. India as a nation with a rich and complex history with various cycles of events repeating themselves over time. এই যে মার্কসৰ ষ্টেটমেণ্টটো আমি এতিয়া অধ্যয়ন কৰিম আমাৰ ইণ্ডিয়াৰ কনটেক্সট, কাৰণ ইণ্ডিয়াত এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ বহুত ঘটনা দেখা পোৱা যায় যিখিনি আমি আচলতে প্ৰেডিক্ট কৰিব পাৰো আমাৰ আগৰ হিষ্ট্ৰীখিনি যায়। Right? India is a nation with rich and complex history. Various cycles of events are repeating themselves over time. Repeat হৈ গৈ থাকে। Communal riots have been a recurring problem in India, both before and after independence. These riots are conflicts between religious communities, and they often result in violence, property damage, and loss of life. Right? We all agree with that. Communal violence আমাৰ ইণ্ডিয়াত আছেই। যদি লাগিলে আপোনালোকে ইণ্ডিপেণ্ডেন্সৰ আগৰে চাওক বা পাছতে চাওক, you will see that this type of communal riots happen many times, and this is a kind of recurring problem. And what does it mean by recurring problem? Recurring problem means those problems which are repeating over times. And this type of riots often result in the violence, property damage, and loss of life. Now, the natural and intensity of communal riots have varied in pre- and post-independence India. These riots were often triggered by religious or political factors, such as demand for a separate Muslim homeland or the assassination of a prominent political leader. আমাৰ হিষ্ট্ৰীৰ পৰা আমি মেক্সিমাম গম পাওঁ যে এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ যিখিনি, যেনেকৈ আপোনালোকে যদি মনত আছে ডাইৰেক্ট একশ্যন ডেৰ কথা, তেতিয়া আপোনালোকে মানে যদি পঢ়িছে এইটো, তেতিয়া আপোনালোকে গম পাব যে কমিউনেল ৰাইটে কিমান ডাঙৰ এটা ৰূপ ল'ব পাৰে, কিমান মানুহৰ প্ৰাণহানি হ'ব পাৰে। ৰাইট? আৰু সেই প্ৰব্লেমটো কিয় আপোনাৰ ক্ৰিয়েট হৈছিলে? কাৰণ তেনেকুৱা সময়ত কিছুমান লিডাৰ আছিলে যিসকলে নিজৰ স্বাৰ্থ পূৰণ কৰিবৰ কাৰণে আমাৰ নিজৰ যিখিনি কমন মানুহ আছিল সেইখিনিক তাৰ বাবে ইউজ কৰিছিল। লাগিলে সেয়া ছেপাৰেট মুছলিম হোমলেণ্ডৰ কাৰণে হওক বা এছাচিনেশ্যন অফ এ প্ৰমিনেণ্ট পলিটিকেল লিডাৰৰ কাৰণে কিয় নাহক। There were several communal riots that took place in pre-independent India, fueled by religious, linguistic, and ethnic differences. লিংগুইষ্টিক আৰু এথনিক ডিফাৰেঞ্চেছৰ কাৰণেও আমি বহুত এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ ৰাইট হোৱা দেখিবলৈ পাওঁ। ৰাইট? ৰিলিজিয়াছটো আছেই, লগতে কিন্তু এই দুটাও বহুত ইম্পৰ্টেণ্ট, লিংগুইষ্টিক এণ্ড এথনিক ডিফাৰেঞ্চেছ। মনত পেলাবচোন আমি যে আমাৰ অন্ধ্ৰপ্ৰদেশখনৰ ক্ৰিয়েশ্যনৰ কথা, তাত কিমানখিনি আপোনাৰ এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ কি বুলি ক'ব পাৰোঁ আন্দোলন জড়িত হৈ আছিল, য'ত মানুহৰ প্ৰাণহানিও হৈছিল। Right? The Moplah Rebellion was a violent rebellion that took place in 1921 in the Malabar region of Kerala. And this rebellion, মানে কোনটো rebellionৰ কথা কৈছো? Moplah Rebellion, কেৰেলা যিটো হৈছিলে যে মালাবাৰ ৰিজনৰ 1921ত। আৰু এই যে rebellionটো that was led by Muslim tenants against the Hindu landlords and British government. And this rebellion, resulted in the deaths of around 2,000 people, and mostly they were Hindus. So এইটো এটা ডাঙৰ উদাহৰণ হয় যে কমিউনেল ৰায়টছে কেনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ ভয়ংকৰ ৰূপ ল'ব পাৰে। অ'কে, আমি অলপ এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ উদাহৰণ দিব লাগে আচলতে এছেইত। মপলাহ ৰেবেলিয়ন কেৰেলাৰ 1921ত হৈছিল, য'ত নেকি সেই মুছলিম টিনেণ্টসকলে হিন্দু লেণ্ডলৰ্ডছ আৰু ব্ৰিটিছ গভাৰ্ণমেণ্টৰ বিৰুদ্ধে থিয় দিছিল, আৰু তাৰ ফলত 2000তকৈও অধিক বা 2000 এৰাউণ্ড হিন্দুসকলৰ ডেথ হৈছিল। ৰাইট? এইটো এটা উদাহৰণ কমিউনেল ৰাইটছৰ। আপোনালোকে বেলেগতো এইটো ইউজ কৰিব পাৰিব মেইনছ পেপাৰ লিখোঁতে। দেন এটা মই অলৰেডি কৈছোঁ ডাইৰেক্ট একশ্যন ডে। ৰাইট? ডাইৰেক্ট একশ্যন ডে এতিয়া আৰু অলপ আগলে আমি আগবাঢ়ি পেলাই দেখো এইটো মপলাহ ৰেভিলিয়নটো 1921ত হৈছিল নাও ডাইৰেক্ট একশ্যন ডে ৱাজ এ কল ফৰ এ কমিউনেল ষ্ট্ৰাইক বাই মুছলিম লীগ অন 16 August 1946 and it was observed as a day of action by the Muslim community to demand the creation of a separate Muslim state of Pakistan. The strike led to widespread communal violence, especially in the city of Calcutta, okay, present day Kolkata, resulting in the death of around 4,000 people. ঠিক আছে এইটো এটা বহুতেই এটা কি বুলি ক'ব পাৰোঁ আনফৰ্চুনেট এক্সাম্পল বুলি আমি ক'ব পাৰোঁ ডাইৰেক্ট একশ্যন ডেটো হৈছে কি যে মুছলিম লীগে ডিক্লেয়াৰ কৰিছিল যেতিয়াই তেওঁলোকে শুনিবলৈ পাইছিল যে এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ ছেপাৰেট ষ্টেটৰ কোনো প্লেন নাই ছেপাৰেট কাউণ্ট্ৰি প্লেন নাই তেতিয়া তেওঁলোকে এখন ছেপাৰেট মুছলিম ষ্টেট লাগিবই বুলি পাকিস্তান লাগিবই বুলি এইটো ডিক্লেয়াৰ কৰিছিল কেতিয়া 16 August 1946 they declared as a day of action and a lot of communal violences took place and those actually taking place in the city of Calcutta and that resulted the death of as many as 4,000 people. So this direct action day, 16 August 1946, again a very unfortunate example for this type of communal riots. Then again, moving ahead, we know about the Punjab riots. The Punjab riots took place in 1947 during the partition of India and Pakistan. The riots were fueled by the religious tensions between Hindu, Muslim, and Sikh communities. The riot resulted in the deaths of thousands of people with estimates ranging from 2 lakh to 2 million. There have been several instances of communal riots that have taken place in India even after independence also. যেতিয়া আমাৰ পাৰ্টিশ্যন হৈছিলে ৰাইট আমি জানো সেইটো সময়তো বহুত ধৰণৰ এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ ইভেণ্টছ হৈছিল riots হৈছিল তাৰ ভিতৰত উল্লেখনীয় এটা হৈছে the Punjab riots of 1947 tensions being fueled by religious leaders actually among the Hindu, Muslim, and Sikh communities. And as a result, this riot took place, and that resulted as many as 2 lakh to 2 million people dead. Now, we have seen 3 examples, right? The first, we talk about that Moflap rebellion of Kerala that took place in 1921, killing 2,000 Hindu peoples, mostly Hindu landlords and British by the Muslim tenants. Then we talk about direct action day of 16 August 1946 by Muslim League declaration, killing around 4,000 people in the city of Calcutta. Then Punjab riots during the independence, that is the partition of India and Pakistan taking place. So that is fueled again by religious tensions, killing as many as 2 lakh to 2 million peoples from Hindu, Muslim, Sikh communities. So we have just seen that communal riots are happening again and again. Right, even after if we talk about the after independence, then like examples like Gujarat riots, I hope you probably heard about that. Gujarat riots 2002, the communal violence broke out in Gujarat following the burning of train carrying Hindu activities in Godhra. আপোনালোকে পাইছে চাগে নিউজত যে 2002 গুজৰাট ৰায়টৰ কথা এখন ট্ৰেইন য'ত হিন্দু এক্টিভিটিজ গৈ আছিল right সেইখন জ্বলাই দিয়া হৈছিল the riots lasted for several weeks resulting in the death of over 1,000 Muslims. Again we know about Delhi riot 20 Gujarat riot 2002 Godhra train burning, right? Again we know about the Delhi riots 2020. Communal riots broke out in several areas of Delhi, primarily between again Hindu and Muslim. So বাৰেপতি আমি দেখিছো হিন্দু মুছলিমৰ মাজত communal riots হৈয়ে আছে repeatedly, and the riots were triggered by the protests against the Citizenship Amendment Act and resulted in the death of around 50 people. Now, is it Delhi riot 2020? আমি অসমতো ভালকে গম পাওঁ Citizenship Amendment Act directly related to our state. So, one more communal riot took place in Delhi during 2020, and this was happening during the protests going on against the Citizenship Amendment Act, that is CA, and that killed around 50 people, right? Then again, we know about that. So many examples are there. We are here actually studying some important ones. Mumbai riots of 1992, 1993, communal riots broke out in Mumbai after the demolition of Babri Masjid in Ayodhya. It was sobei jane 1992, 93 Bombay riots. Nezanilo ami etia janibo lagibo likhibole, right? The riots lasted for several months and resulted in the death of over 900 people. Again, Sikh riots in 1984. Etu bahut important hoy. Sikh riots in 1984 were triggered by the assassinations of Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, right? Bahut Sikh manuhok mora hoisil hetu samoyot 1984. Then after India gained independence in 1947, the country continued to witness communal riots, and these riots have been caused by a variety of factors, including religious differences, political tensions, and socio-economic disparities. So these riots actually, these are taking place because of so many reasons, and we can directly classify them like religious differences, political tensions, and socio-economic disparities. মনত ৰাখিব, religious difference to main হয়, লগতে political tensions and socio-economic disparities. India faced several economic crises during the pre-independence period, some of which were result as a result of British colonial policies. The Great Famine of 1876-78 was one of the worst famine in India's histories, which occurs during the British colonial rule. The famine was caused by a combination of factors, right? And like drought and the export of food grains from India to Britain, and it is estimated that between 5.5 million to 10 million people died due to this famine. 1876-78 যিটো এটা ফেমিন হৈছিলে, ৰাইট? ওকে, সেইটো সময়ত যেটো আমাৰ অবভিয়াসলি ব্ৰিটিছ কলোনিয়েল ৰুল চলি আছিল, আৰু এইটো এটা মেনমেড ফেমাইন হয় আচলতে, ঠিক আছে? এইটো এটা যেটো আকাল আহিছিলে সেইটো এটা মেনমেড, কাৰণ কিয় হৈছিলে যে 1876-78 গ্ৰেট ফেমাইন? এইটো হৈছিল বিকজ of the drought and export of food from India to Britain. Indiaৰ পৰা ফুডছ কিনি কি হৈছিলে, গ্ৰেইনছ কিনি ইণ্ডিয়াৰ পৰা এক্সপোৰ্ট কৰি দিয়া হৈছিল ব্ৰিটেইনলৈ। চ' সেইভাৱে, আৰু ড্ৰটটো আছিলেই অফক'ৰ্ছ, সেইভাৱে আমাৰ ইয়াৰ মানুহ around 5.5 million to 10 million people died due to this famine. So this is again a very unfortunate history. Then again we have the Bengal famine of 1943 to 1876-78 or Great Famine বুলি কওঁ, আৰু এটা Bengal famine of 1943. During the World War II, India faced another severe famine in Bengal. Okay, and this was again exacerbated by the British policies like export of food grains and diversion of resources to the war effort. And this time 2.1 million to 3 million people died due to the famine. প্ৰথমতে আমি দেখিলো যেটো গ্ৰেট ফেমাইন অফ 1876-78, হেতু এটা ব্ৰিটিছৰ কলোনিয়েল ৰুলৰ ক্ষেত্ৰতে হৈছিল, কাৰণেই হৈছিল ড্ৰটৰ লগতে ব্ৰিটিছৰ সেই এক্সপোৰ্ট পলিচি, because of the British export policy from means to export the grains from India to Britain, that during that drought time caused around 5.5 million to 10 million people dead during that great famine of 1876-78. Similarly, again the history repeats, that is that repeats during the Bengal famine of 1943, when the World War II was going on, British again made such type of bad policies, killing policies of exporting food grains from India or diversion of the resources to the war effort. And that time also, like the previous time, 5.5 million to 10 million people died. Again, that 1943 Bengal famine also, around 2.1 million to 3 million people died due to the famine. So you see how histories are repeating. Now, the Great Depression of 1929 had a severe impact in the India's economies. The price, it was Zanu Great Depression of 1929. Okay, the prices of agricultural products fell, leading to a decline in the income of farmers. The depressions also led to a decline in the international trade, which affected the India's exports and industrial production. The partition of India in 1947 again had a significant impact on the country's economy. So, from the point of economic point of view, from the economy point of view, we have examples like Great Depression of 1929, when the agricultural products prices falling. So means implying a decline of the farmers' income. So that had a very severe impact on India's economy. Again, the same thing, the partition of India during the partition of India 1947, that also impact the country's economy. And this partition led to the division of industries, right, railways and other resources between India and Pakistan. So the migration of the people resulted in the displacement of skilled means workers and entrepreneurs, leading to a decline in the industrial production also, because during the partition some industries became part of that newly created Pakistan and some falling in the Indian side. Similarly, that happened to the railways and other resources side also, and the migration of peoples are taking place. So some of the skilled workers and entrepreneurs going to that side. So that implied a decline in the industrial production, right? That is again badly impacted the India's economy. So India has faced several economic crises after independence, some of which were caused by internal factors and some by external factors. And we all know about the balance of payment crisis that happened in 1991. That was a severe balance of payment crisis caused by a combination of factors like large trade deficit. Obviously, if it is a balance of payment crisis, then there should be some trade deficit, and high oil prices is one more reason, and a decline in remittances. The earning of money by the Indian diaspora that is coming to India side was decreasing at the time, and trade deficit was there, and the high oil prices made us very weak during that period. So that's why the balance of payment crisis took place in 1991, and this crisis forced India to seek a loan from International Monetary Fund and implement economic reforms, including liberalization, privatization, and globalization. Before that time, we believe in some kind of socialist approach, but after that, we are moving towards some kind of capitalist approach, because when this balance of payment crisis 1991 took place, we had been left with no other option to take help from IMF, that is International Monetary Fund, and that IMF helped us, but with a suggestion that we have to do some economic reforms, and that economic reform was none other than LPG, that is liberalization, privatization, and globalization. So we had opened our market for foreign companies also. Because of that, our own companies, our own industries suffered a lot. But we had to do that because we had to follow the suggestion being made by IMF, right? Then apart from that, inflation crisis of 2013-14, India faced a high inflation crisis, right? We know about that. With consumer price inflation exceeding 10%. So during that inflation crisis of 2013-14, consumer price inflation exceeding 10%. So this inflation was caused by a combination of factors like decline in the values of Indian rupee and high food prices and supply side constraint. And this crisis forced the government to implement monetary and fiscal measures to control inflation. We know, na? You or me or we all know that when this type of inflation occurs, then monetary and fiscal measures should be employed to control the inflation, right? So that was about inflation crisis of 2013-14, and that is a very bad impact, like consumer price inflation exceeding 10%. So we talk about economic crisis also. Now, agricultural crisis of Indian's agricultural sector in recent years due to the factors like declining farm incomes, low productivity, and most importantly, climate change. And this crisis has resulted in farmers' protests and demands for better price and support from the government. Obviously, if the crisis took place, then the farmer had no other option to means ask their selected government to do support for them or do support them during that their crisis period by demanding better prices and support, right? And because of the climate changes, and the climate changes taking place because of our own activities, some bad activities, right? So this type of changes are happening, right? Declining farm incomes and low productivity. So that is about agricultural crisis, and that also has some evidence of past and present, and most probably in future events also we will see that history is repeating again and again. Then COVID-19 pandemic had a severe impact on India's economy, causing a decline in the economic growth and loss of jobs and reduced consumer spending, right? The pandemic also highlighted the structural weakness in India's healthcare system and led to a humanitarian crisis with lots of people facing hunger and poverty. See, that is okay that we have, that is not okay, but that is the truth that we have faced very hurdle during the COVID-19 pandemic. But that uh, also taught us that we have to prepare ourselves for any such kind of pandemic situations, right? We were not prepared at that time. Even during the second wave also, first wave to happen, then after the second wave came, right? We know about that. We all know about that. But at that time also, we were not prepared. So we have to know that the history is repeating, right? So if we learn something from our bad experience from the past or history, then we have to prepare ourselves from the next thing that may happen when the history repeats again. So from the COVID-19 pandemic, although the bad things happened, that is apart, we had learned that where our weakness was, and that highlighted that the structural weakness of Indian healthcare system. So after that, if you if you means properly investigate, then you will see that there are many reforms nowadays the governments are trying to bring to the healthcare system. If you talk about the central also, or if you talk about the state also, uh, you will see that there are different, although this is a kind of state subject, so there are many reforms the government is trying to bring so that we should make ourselves ready for next this type of unfortunate pandemic situations, right? So we learn from our history. Now, ideological repetitions refers to the continuation of certain ideas and beliefs before and after a significant event, such as independence. In the context of India, there are some ideological repetitions that can be observed before and after independence. The idea of Indian nationalism was prominent before independence, as leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru emphasized the need of an independent India, right? That was free from British rule. Now, the idea of secularism was also a part of pre-independence ideology, as leaders like Nehru advocated for a secular India that would not discriminate on the basis of religion. So some ideas are there, some ideological ideas are there that can be seen continuing after independence also, right? Like the Mahatma Gandhi and Jawaharlal Nehru's idea of being independence on keeping our country as secular country, like that was an idea advocated by Nehru, because that way the discrimination will never take place on the basis of religion. So these things we can see that ideological reputations are also there. Yes or no? So that is, then idea of Indian nationalism continued after independence also, as the country sought to establish itself as a sovereign nation and maintains its territorial integrity. The idea of secularism also continued after independence because it was enshrined in the Indian constitution itself and remains an important principle in the Indian society. The idea of social justice also continued after independence, as the government has implemented various policies and programs to address the social and economic inequalities that exist in Indian society. So we have seen, yes, we have seen that the idea of independence, sovereignty, so secularism, that are reflecting after independence also, even in our constitution, even in our preamble also, those things are reflected, right? Social justice we can easily see through different types of scheme that the government is means trying to implement, right? Now, always we can say that from the history we are learning something. We are learning that how the discrimination can be stopped, and that now this government trying to implement through their different social welfare policies. And that way, social justice can be expected. Now, India has a long and complex history of war, both before and after independence, like Anglo-Mysore Wars of 1767 to 1799. That is a series of 4 wars fought between British East India Company and the Kingdom of Mysore, led by Tipu Sultan, right? 1767 to 1799 কি war হৈছিলে আমাৰ এংলো মাইচৰ ৱাৰ্ছ হৈছিলে 4খন হৈছিলে আমি জানো টিপু সুলতানে লিড কৰিছিলে দেন এংলো মাৰাঠা ৱাৰ 1775 ৰ পৰা 1818 that is a series of 5 wars fought between British East India Company and the Maratha war. Then Farce Anglo-Sikh War 1845-1846, a war fought between East India Company and the Sikh Empire. Then Indian Rebellion of 1857, that is the Sepoy Mutiny, was a major uprising against British rule in India that ultimately failed but had a lasting impact. So there are some wars, complex history of war that we Indian history have. Here we are citing about the Anglo-Mysore Wars of 1767 to 1799, 4 wars. The Anglo-Maratha Wars of 1775 to 1818, 5 wars. Then Anglo-Sikh Wars of 1845 and 1846, and then Indian very famous Sepoy Mutiny of 1857. Although failed but had lasting impact. Then Indian-Pakistan War of 1947, first of several wars fought between India and Pakistan over the disputed territory of Kashmir. India-China War of 1962, a border conflict between India and China resulted in China gaining control of Aksai Chin. We know about this, right? 1962's India-China War. China took control of her Aksai Chin. Then India-Pakistan War of 1971 led to the creation of Bangladesh, as well as India's victory over Pakistan. Again, Kargil War 1999, a limited war fought between India and Pakistan over a district named Kargil in Kashmir. Then India-China again border conflict took place in 2020 to 2020, right? That resulted in a violent clash raised from the border issue in the Galwan Valley, resulting in the deaths of over 20 Indian soldiers, happened in 2020. So there have been many wars in the India's history, both before and after independence, and the causes and context of these war conflicts have varied widely, but it is important to remember that human cause of these conflicts and work towards peaceful resolution of the disputes in the future, so that this type of conflicts, the regions, if we study properly, then we can probably stop any such type of future even to be not occurred in India, right? Now, caste-based discrimination, again a long-standing issue in India, both before and after independence. The practice of untouchability, a kind of severe form of caste-based discrimination. We all know about it, right? Where certain castes were considered as untouchable. This is mostly happen in Hindu society and subjected to extreme social and economic marginalization. Social and reform, social reform movements like Brahmo Samaj and Arya Samaj emerged in the 19th century, seeking to the salience of this caste system and promote equality. So এইবিলাক যে তোমার caste equality বা we can say discrimination, caste-based discrimination, that some kind of reforms being started to suppress this type of discrimination, like Brahmo Samaj and Arya Samaj in 19th centuries. Then again, Constitution of India also provides different provisions prohibiting caste-based discriminations, ensuring equal opportunities. You know about Article 17, right? You know about Article 14. So the Indian government has implemented a reservation system whereby a certain percentage of government jobs, educational institutions, political positions are reserved for members of historically disadvantaged castes and tribes. Anti-discrimination law also have been enacted to address the caste-based religions, including the Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention and Atrocities Act of 1989. This type of examples are very important, like Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities. Monot rakhiba, Scheduled Caste and Scheduled Tribes Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989. That laws, this is an act, right? This is a law that has been enacted to address caste-based discrimination. And other provisions are there. Na? I told you about Article 17. I told you about Article 14, right? Now, despite these measures also, the caste-based discrimination continues like a pervasive issue in India, affecting millions of peoples from historically disadvantaged castes and tribes. So, এইবিলাক থকাৰ পাছতো এনেকুৱা কনষ্টিটিউচনেল মেজাৰ থকাৰ পাছতো সঘনাই শুনিবলৈ পোৱা যায় ডিসক্ৰিমিনেশন আছে, ৰাইট? বহুত হিষ্টৰিকেলি ডিসএডভান্টেজ কাষ্ট বা ট্ৰাইবছৰ ওপৰত এনেকুৱা ধৰণৰ ডিসক্ৰিমিনেশন প্ৰেক্টিছ কৰিছে। Now, the Pestigo forest fire, often referred to as the deadliest in US history, claimed the lives of over 1,500 people. এইবিলাক আমি foreigner example দিব পাৰো, কিন্তু আপোনালোকে নিবিচাৰিলে it's not problem. You can cite this type of events from foreign countries, or you may stop with some examples of India also. Like here we can cite some examples of environmental based disaster cases like Baghjan, right? So this type of things we can give example from our own state, Assam also. Like you can give the example of earthquakes also that happened frequently. If you study the 18th, 19th centuries and 20th century also, you can see that how we have to learn from that disasters happening because of earthquakes and how we have to prepare for such type of unfortunate hazards or disasters. And we can prepare ourselves to stand ready after this type of disaster also. We can stand and we can protect ourselves. Now, the recurrence of the recurrence of the past mistakes is a complex occurrence that brings up inquiries about human nature and our ability to learn and progress. Yes or no? It implies that our aptitude to identify the patterns and derive lessons from experience is not entirely dependable. And we have a tendency to replicate the same errors even with the advantage of hindsight. So from the recurrence of past mistakes is a complex occurrence, right? And because of this type of stupid actions, this is mistakes, there bring some inquiries about human natures. The kyo iman ekata khinike amar repeat hoi thake. It brings inquiries about our ability to learn and progress. It implies that our aptitude to identify patterns and derive lessons from experience is not entirely dependable, and we have a tendency to replicate the same errors even with the advantage of hindsight. So these inquiries highlight the essential philosophical queries regarding the essence of knowledge and wisdom. Is wisdom merely a product of experience, or is it a more elusive attribute that requires profound contemplation and understanding? Can we gain knowledge from the mistake of others, or do we need to encounter the outcomes of our actions directly to truly comprehend them? Are you getting me? Means what this sentences are saying? They say that these inquiries highlight the essential philosophical queries. They are not common queries. They are the essential the philosophical inquiries about the essence of knowledge and wisdom, that wisdom is merely a product of experience, or it is a more elusive attribute that requires profound contemplation and understanding. Can we gain knowledge from the mistakes of others, or do we need to encounter the outcomes of our action directly to truly comprehend them? এইখিনি অলপ ভাবিবলগীয়া কথা, right? So that's why we can end this essay like the one famous quote from the Confucius: study the past and you define the future. That is as simple as it is. We should not stupidly repeat the same mistakes again and again, so that nature itself inquire about our human quality of thinking ability, human quality of knowledge and wisdom, that why we are not learning from our own mistakes. These philosophical inquiries actually raise a question on our intelligence. Why we are not gaining knowledge from the mistakes that happen from our side or that happen from the others? Why we are not learning them? Why we are not actually training ourselves to not repeat the same or not encounter the same things again and again? So study the past and you would define the future by Confucius is a very good ending for this essay. And we should not forget that this essay is that famous quote by Karl Marx. What was that? That was the history repeats itself first as a strategy and then as a farce. So that's it. This is the history of today. Sorry, essay of today. We have learned many important quotes here also. We can revise it and then we try to write it with a very good kind of mind mapping first, right? So comment section is free to use. With this, I'm stopping today. Thank you.